So what is the meaning of the thing like a man who the dominion and the glory goes to? Like he came with the clouds of heaven. Mm-hmm. It's the people of Israel. It's the people of the Most High. It says it explicitly at the end of the chapter.
No,
it wasn't important. That's why the attendant doesn't mention it. And you don't want to tell me why the attendant didn't mention it. You don't want to tell me. You think I'm disregarding it. I'm telling you the attendant himself disregarded it, and Daniel accepted what he said. Does he mention anything about coming with the clouds of heaven?
So, but that.
No.
But that's the whole point.
So he doesn't understand it the way you understand it.
No, because that means they're two different things. Because let's look at the verse. Look, I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. So are you saying these people are going to be presented to the ancient days riding on the clouds of heaven? By equating God with a person, rather the correct interpretation is that both thrones are for God, as one throne is for judgment and one throne is for righteousness. Now last week...
And then what does it say?
Yeah, we'll continue, but last week, remember, you said
I know,
both opinions can be correct, the 70 faces.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have first century Rabbi Akiva associating what some Rabbi Yosef said was two thrones for God, but Rabbi Akiva has said one is for the Messiah, David.
Yeah.
So now, if they're both correct statements, can you reconcile it for me? How the throne is both for God and both for the Messiah? Because we can continue as well if you want.
So the only way we're going to reconcile it is if we really if we really look through the entire what we call a sugya, the entire piece of Gemara here.
Okay. Then it says.
So let's first look at what happened before, because otherwise we're never going to understand. So we first need to actually understand it. Why do I need these instead of plural words? Why is okay?
Okay.
I find it easier to learn this Gemara in the Hebrew, so I'll just go back a little bit.
Because you have to reconcile. Both statements are true. Because of as you said, the 70 faces, two statements can both be true in the spiritual sense. So we have two thrones, both are for God.
By the way, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Although you are correct that both are true in the spiritual sense.
Yeah.
We always need to remember, in the physical sense, there is only one true.
Okay.
And that's why in the Talmud, although you have many different what we call havaminas, which are what I would have thought, i.e. legitimate ways of looking at it, along the way, there's only one conclusion at the end. So the physical truth, because we're only able to comprehend one truth. Even in the spiritual realms, as you say, there's more than one truth. At the end, it boils down to one truth that's going to be accepted. It's gone blank for some reason.
So if you want to read and give me your interpretation.
So you're going to have to work through it. So, Amar Rav Yochanan says, anytime where the heretics attempt to prove their heresy, the response to their claim is alongside them. Let us make man in our image.
So this is what we discussed last week.
And God created man in his image.
So this is just about the...
let us go down and there compound.
Yes.
Language. The answer to that is Vayevad Hashem Le'osis Vayevad Hamikdash. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower.
So...
Ki Shom Nigla Elav
Elokim. Yes. Because
there God was revealed to him.
Because now in this West, what he's reading, they're going through the verses where God speaks in the plural, and then he acts in the singular. Because and I'll go over some of the verses, such as the Tower of Babel, when God says we will go down to see what is going on, but then in the plural singular, the singular is used. So they're just discussing in the Mishnah.
The God who answers me in the day of my distress. This isn't actually the Mishnah. And then it says
the Talmud.
So then so then he says, for what nation is there so great that is God so near to them as the Lord our God is whenever we call to him? So what's the problem there? It explains that the term near. Over here he's citing examples where the counterclaim is in the same verse as the heretics.
So
because here where the term near is written in plural, now the term upon him is written in the singular. So then what happens? We make in that very same Right?
Now, what I understand from this is that...
So the one we were talking about is Daniel, which is the third one he brings in this one, where the way you deal with it is in the same verse.
So, in terms of the plurality, the rabbis are trying to say the answer is in the actual verse because it's talked about a plural, but then because it goes to the singular, that is the answer. But that doesn't go against what Christians believe. We accept the singular, but the Jews have to explain the plural, which goes against what they believe. So we can accept the plural and the singular, which doesn't refute us, but then they have to explain the plural, which goes against their singular belief. So his answer is, the answer is in the same verse, which it goes into the singular, but that doesn't explain the plural. But we, as Christians, we believe that there's three distinct persons and one God. So that doesn't go against our beliefs. That actually reinforces our belief. But as the Jews believe in one God, they now have to reconcile with the plural, which they haven't given us an answer for.
So then he says, we're going to get to you soon.
Yeah.
So then he brings this verse in Daniel.
Yeah, you can just press back. So then we're going now to the Daniel 7:14, because I've now brought him evidence where Rabbi Akiva in the first century.
This isn't 7:14, it's 7:9.
7:9.
So thrones were placed,
talks about the two thrones, and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva associated the second throne with the Messiah, but then Rabbi Yosef later on came and said, when will you stop desacralizing what's in God's throne? So he's saying both thrones are for God. But my argument is, if the Jews never associated divinity with the Messiah, why would their first century rabbi then associate the second throne with the Messiah? So now Josh is just reading through and trying to answer it. Yeah.
I don't need to answer it, he answers it himself.
Okay.
The Gemara answers himself. It says, Hanach lamali. Okay, why do I need these? Why do I need this instance of plural words? Okay, why is it doing that? Okay, the Omer Yochanan, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oseh Davar Elo Im Keinim Lechem Famani Yishol Malo. Okay, as Rav Yochanan said, the Holy One Blessed be He does not act unless He consults with the entourage of above, i.e. the angels. Shene'emar, as it says in Daniel 4:14, V'gzeras Irin Piskoma of Mama Kadishin She'ilta. The matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the sentence by the word of the holy ones.
Now let me just read it. So it says, the Gemara asks, why do I need these instances of plural words? Why does the verse employ the plural at all when referring to God? The Gemara explains, this is in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yohan, as Rabbi Yohanan said, the Holy One, blessed be He, does not act unless He consults with the entourage above, i.e. the angels. As it is stated, the matter is by the decree of the watchers, the sentence by the word of the holy ones. Now, obviously, this is again referring back to the plural of majesty.
No, it's not.
In terms of consulting the angels.
That's not the plural of majesty. The plural of majesty is the royal we.
Okay.
This is not the plural of majesty.
Sorry.
This is seeking counsel from the entourage, from the angels.
And what is this verse in regard to? The thrones or the let us
all
make
of them,
man?
all the ones they just mentioned.
So you're saying God's, when He said let us make man in our image, He was consulting the angels?
Yes.
So now, when He says let us make man in the plural of majesty, what is the difference between the two understandings?
Plural of majesty implies He's just using the royal we, like the Queen does, okay? She says, we, like Queen Victoria supposedly, but probably did not say, we are not amused, even though she's talking about herself. That's the plural of majesty. Okay. The difference between that and consulting the angels, where there's a real plural. He's saying, let us, i.e. me and you guys, the angels, make man. So he's consulting them. He's bringing them into the picture.
When He consulted the angels, what were their response?
I would have assumed that either they didn't respond or they responded, yes.
So God was speaking to Himself. So God asked them a question.
You only listened to the first.
Yeah, I'm breaking it down.
The first part. I said because it's never explicit anywhere what the response is. You're right. Okay. So either there was no response, as none was really needed.
Okay.
Or there was a response, and that response was the affirmative.
So we never actually hear what the response was. So it's a guess. So,
it's an obvious.
But you've just given me two possible conclusions. One, they didn't respond, or one they could have. So if it's obvious, which one is it? You're just guessing. You're giving me both possible
Take your
scenarios.
pick. They're both as likely as each other.
But where's the evidence? Because what we're saying is this. What I'm saying is this.
You think the angels would have said no?
Because you said that God asked them a question, and then
we can move into the shade.
Yeah, we can move into the shade. Because God asked them a question, but God is omnipresent, right? And God is omniscient. So in God's omniscience, he asked them about making man in our image, and then they didn't respond, or they could have responded, but we don't know what the response was.
Look, the question here is the response of the angels, or the lack of response from the angels, actually the important factor here? What is it trying to teach us? There is a lesson we're being taught, and I mentioned this last week. The lesson we're being taught is that even God, even the King of Kings, the creator of the whole world, consults with his entourage, which is a lesson to all leaders, should always be consulting with their entourage, even though they're lesser than them, It doesn't actually matter what the response of the angels is. That's not the lesson being taught. The lesson being taught is one of humility. God's teaching us to be humble.
But we never see their response ever.
That's because the response is irrelevant.
It's like me saying to you, Josh, let's go and get some food. And when you're following me,
I'm not lesser than you.
I go on I say, where are you going? I'm going on my own. Because obviously, as we saw with the Tower of Babel, God says, let us go and see what's happening. But God in the singular goes by himself. So then would I invite you to a party and then go by myself? What lesson is from there? What lesson would we learn from that? Unless we both go to the party together.
The lesson is clearly, God is teaching us two things. When it's the plural, he's teaching us about being humble, including your entourage who are lesser than you. That's what the Gemara is saying.
Yes.
It's a refutation of you.
But then,
when it's then in the singular, it's making sure you don't make that mistake and say that God is plural.
So if God says to the angels, let us go down and see what is happening, and God only... What are the angels going to say? Do you think they'll say yes or no?
Say yes.
So then if God goes by himself, what happened to the angels?
Let us do something does not mean that all of them need to do it.
But not even one did it, because God went down in the singular.
Yes, God did it himself.
So then you're saying God is teaching us to be humble.
And then God's teaching us about his oneness.
But then they've agreed and said, yes, let's go down. And God's then gone by himself. Where's the humbleness? What humbleness is that teaching?
Let's take one at a time. Let's start with first, let us make man in our image,
Yes.
Let's think of the context here. The context here is, so far, what kind of creations are there? There's the purely spiritual creations, which are the angels, and there's the purely physical creations, which are the animals and the birds and the insects and the fish, right? In terms of living things and plants as well, Now, God's about to make a new creation, man, which is a what's it called? A mixture of physical and spiritual. Man is a mixture of physical and spiritual. And until now, it's just been the angels up there. So God consults the angels, bringing them into the decision. Teaching us this thing of humility, of bringing in your entourage. And this pivotal part of creation where the angels, you're not going to be the only spiritual creations anymore. I think I'm going to be being attacked by a wasp. You're not going to be the only spiritual creations anymore. Now there's going to be this man there, which is going to be both physical and spiritual. So he consults the angels. He's saying, let us do it. Shall we? Okay.
Oh, Mr. Right. Mr. Right.
The angels would have obviously said yes, because they're not going to say no. Now, if there's going to be a response at all, they're not going to say no.
Now, this I find very problematic. Why? Because when we go to the Mishnah, I need to find the Talmud.
By the way, just before you say what you're about to say, if God had not done the verb, that comes afterwards, in the singular, according to this Gemara, there would have been no answer to the heretics. there would have been no answer.
No,
you would have been right.
No, because the thing is, we always believe God is the singular. Which Christian said that we believe in 3 gods?
No, you believe in one. You believe in 3 in 1.
With 3 persons or 3 manifestations and 1 God. So if it's in the singular, if it's in the singular, it doesn't go against what we believe.
So, okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay, so clearly there's 2 ways of looking at this.
Yeah.
Because when you see the plural followed by the singular.
Because remember, you said last week spiritual truths can happen in the spiritual realm, but in the physical realm, they may not always go against logic. So when we say God is 3 persons, that is in the spiritual sense, which in the physical realm goes maybe against logic. And let me just actually point out something for you to enhance my statement, because last week we were discussing about the word ahad. I don't know if you've got your Torah on you.
I do, but I know those verses off by heart. I say them. I say that verse, I think 4 times a day, every day.
Yeah, but I would like you to read a certain verse for me.
Which verse would you like me to read?
This is in Genesis.
Okay, this is about man and woman?
Nope.
No? Okay then. I might have to take out my Tanakh.
Because last week he said that ahad is an absolute one. And I said it can be a compound one. He said no. And we were discussing about the man and a wife becoming one. So I'm going to bring him another verse in Genesis 1, verse 5. And I'd like you to read it out.
God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening and there was morning, one day.
Okay, and what's the word in Hebrew?
Echad, which means one.
So repeat it again.
God called the light day, and
the light day, and the darkness
he called night.
And continue.
And there was evening and there was morning.
Evening and morning. So evening and morning are ahad, one day.
Make a good point. However, I'm going to refute your point. The Jewish way of looking at this is not an
But now I've just given you evidence that ahad can be a compound one when you said it was a definitive one.
So let's have a look right here. Okay, let's have a look.
Yes.
What do we see in the other days of creation? We see not day 2, day 3, day 4. We see 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, why here did it use echad instead of the word rishon, which means first? Okay. So what do our commentaries say? Our commentaries from the oral law tell us that it really, hold on a second, that it really means a day of oneness. Oh, sorry, it's my friend who's usually here.
Yep. Because clearly we're seeing now, last week, and we'll probably try and put it in the video, last week he said ahad is a definitive one, nothing outside of, because he was arguing when a man and a wife become one, he was arguing the point of they're one. And I said, no, it can be a compound one. Now, I've given him the verse where in the Bible it says, let me just read it for the audience. This is Genesis 1:5. And it says, and God calleth the light day, and to the darkness he hath called night. And there is an evening and there is a morning, one day, which is ahad day.
So what do our commentaries explain as to why it said one day instead of first day? So what they say is as follows. The word for day here, the word for day always is yom. Now, that is a masculine singular verb. The interesting thing about Hebrew grammar is that unlike the feminine singular and the feminine plural and masculine plural, when you have a masculine noun, masculine singular noun, when whether it's a construct or not a construct, it looks the same. So the commentaries say that what's really happening here is it's not really saying one day, even though that's what the
text says one day, but the rabbis are saying it's not one day.
Even though that is the straightforward way, that's the first glance translation. He said that Yom Echad can not only mean one day, it can also mean a day of one. It can also mean a day of one. And they explain that this is because God had not yet created the angels at this point, so he was still on his own. He was the only, you can't say living being, that Kivayachol which means, as it were,
but the Bible says God created the heavens and the earth.
Yes, but those are not living things.
Yes.
Those are
but when were the angels created?
So I think we say that he created the angels on the 4th day.
But
no, it wasn't. Sorry, no, the second day.
Does it say that in the Torah?
No, that's in the oral law.
So in the oral law.
The Torah doesn't. The written Torah does not tell you. The written law does not tell you when he created the angels.
Okay.
It's only the oral law. I'm pretty sure it's the second day.
The second day.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it's the second day he created the angels. I remember that from.
So when was man created? What day was that?
The 6th day.
The 6th day. Okay. So we clearly see.
And therefore, so the Jews do have an answer to your question. Okay, it's a valid question. We would see it, even though the straightforward meaning, straightforward translation is one day.
Okay.
That because it should have said first day, that over here it must mean
God
a day of
spoke
oneness.
Wrongly, because he said God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening and there was morning the first day.
He didn't speak wrongly.
The
Heaven
day.
forbid.
Yes.
Heaven forbid. Yom Echad has two possible meanings.
Okay.
As we said, because the word Yom means both day and a day of. It means both.
So it can have two possible meanings. And if one of the possible meanings is the ones that I'm giving you, so therefore well then if we go with that understanding, then it proves that Ahad can be a compound one. Just like when it says a man and a wife shall become one flesh.
You would be right. But the reason I brought up this whole issue of why did it not say a first day is to show you why we take one meaning over the other. Why do we take a day of oneness over one day? Because otherwise you haven't explained why it did not say first day, Yom Rishon, which it should have done to be consistent.
Or maybe God was trying to clarify to people that Ahad can mean a compound one. And then when you go to Deuteronomy 6:4 and it says Shema Israel, which means Shema, which is to listen and with understanding. Hear, O Israel, your Lord God, here is one. So therefore, when he uses the Ahad, and he's saying understand, Elohanu, Adonai, Ehad. So these plurality, which when we went into the Kabbalah, the Zohar, which said the three modes, how can these three be one? We're seeing.
And it told you that you don't understand it.
Yes, but they're saying how can these three be one? So that goes with Genesis. These three being one goes with Genesis 1:5, because Genesis 1:5 says Ahad, an evening and a morning become one. Even in the Zohar, they said how can these three become one, which is Ahad. So there's a way that they couldn't comprehend that these three, just like the day, morning, and the evening become one, that these three become Ahad too. Which is consistent rather than your understanding, which is very left field and doesn't explain anything.
It does. This very, very rightly explains. This is the oral law, of course, and you don't believe in the oral law.
Well, we take the Torah.
We take
obviously
you only take
which
the
was written
Torah.
by Moses,
you only take the written Torah.
And then when you
take the oral Torah as well.
And when you get to the oral Torah,
actually you haven't disregarded it entirely. You've kept the bits that you like the vowelization and punctuation of the Torah, but you've disregarded everything else.
Well, the oral Torah, which you said no prophet ever referenced explicitly. In how many thousands of years of biblical history, not one prophet explicitly quotes the oral law.
Because they don't need to. It's obvious. The oral law is an explanation of the written law.
But you would,
the written law is not going to reference the oral law.
But a prophet would
and it does once, just not explicitly.
But a prophet would be well in his means to, when he's explaining something to someone or the people, to reference the oral Torah in his argumentation. But from Genesis all the way to Malachi, we do not see one prophet ever mentioned.
Explicitly mentioned.
Yes, for several thousands of years.
Unless it's considered obvious, and therefore they didn't need to mention it. And because it is obvious, seeing as otherwise you have no vowels or punctuation, okay, and you have no explanation for all the grammatical errors, and you, okay, all these things, okay. Without the oral law, you would be in, as we say, in big shtuch.
Well, you're the one who said the 70 faces So therefore, rabbis can come with different opinions that seem to be contradictory.
As
and I'm gonna go back.
Keeping by the rules,
right? And I'm gonna bring this point up.
You don't know the rules of interpretation,
I mentioned it after I mentioned this, and we're gonna go to those contradictions. So
they are rules.
in the
you don't know what the rules
this is
are.
the Talmud. I need to get the reference. It says, we learned in a Mishnah. There, Rabbi Eliezer says, be persistent to learn the Torah and know what to respond to the heretic.
Yes.
Rabbi Yohanan says, this was only taught with regard to the Gentile heretic, but with regard to a Jewish heretic, as one should... Yeah, as regard to a Jewish heretic.
Not with regard.
Oh, but not with regard to a Jewish heretic, as one should not respond to him, all the more so, if one does respond, he will become more heretical. His heresy, assumed to be intentional, and any attempt to rebut it will only cause him to reinforce his position. Now, my argument is this: the reason why I've read this is, like last week, we saw where they used the plural of majesty as a makeshift for the Gentiles.
And you now, accept my explanation of that, tell me.
As we see here, they say refute the Gentiles, and the reason why they could do it is because the Gentile did not speak Hebrew. So if they go to the plural of majesty, they could then send them away. But the Jewish person who knows the Jewish text and understands everything within, they say he becomes more heretical because he doesn't change his opinion. So why would the Jewish person respond differently to the Gentile? We clearly know that the person who obviously understands the structure of the Hebrew grammar can refute them as well, to say, no, actually, if there's a plural and a singular, where someone who may not understand the Hebrew can be given a makeshift answer.
No, you don't. So,
Answer your question.
So what, is it on topic though? If it's not on topic, it's not. It is on topic.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I was saying. So you were calling that mission from Tractate Avot.
Yeah.
Basically, refute the heretics.
Yeah.
But Apocalypse in that mission, it doesn't refers to Jewish heretics, not non-Jews.
Yeah, but it just said here Gentiles and the Jewish. I'll read it again.
Yeah, but I don't.
So who would if the Jewish?
No.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
So they said.
Let me just say that.
Because if you're referencing the Gentiles and then the Jewish, they can't both be the same person.
Tavchiv Lapikovis. That's basically referring to that Jewish heretic, not necessarily non-Jews. In rabbinic literature, the term Apikovis.
So what's the difference between a Gentile and a Jewish heretic?
Because in rabbinic literature, they basically Hazal they heretics usually are generally referred to as heretics. It's mainly Jewish heretics.
Yeah, but they've clearly said in this text the Gentiles, and then they've also distinguished between their Jewish. So they're saying give two different. Because look.
Yeah, but it just says.
Look, okay. It says.
It just says.
Actually, it's not that one. So look, let me read it out.
Let me just say that.
What's it mean?
Tashiv Lapikovis.
Yes.
Know what to say to a Apocalypse.
Yeah, let me read it in English as well. It's so because this is from the Sephira, the Jewish people who have translated it, and it says, we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer says, be persistent to learn the Torah and know what to respond to the heretic, like Apocalypse. Rabbi Yohan says, this was taught. Remember, Rabbi Yohanan says this was taught only with regard to a Gentile heretic. And then he distinguishes between the Jewish heretic. So they can't be the same, according to Rabbi Yohanan.
Paperboy, Josh,
yeah, we'll get back to him.
Josh.
So thank you very much. Now he's agreed that I have a point. Now, last week Josh said
defend yourself.
That in the Torah, the oral law, that you can have two truths that contradict, but they're both right. Now, I'm going to read again from Rabbi Akiva. So it says in Sanhedrin 38b.
Oh, I was in the middle of dealing with this.
Rabbi, we're going back to that now because we started off on the plurality. It says, Rabbi Yohanan says, any place in the Bible from where the heretics attempt to prove. Actually, that's the wrong one. Because we're talking about
because I already dealt with that. You were thinking, well, why?
Because we're talking about the divinity.
You have no explanation of the plural, and then I said, well, look, it then explains it. So we do have an explanation.
Give me 1 second.
So you're wrong. You're wrong that we have no explanation. We do have an explanation.
Yes. So it says the Gemara clarifies regarding to Daniel 7. This works out for almost all the verses as they describe an action by God. But what is there to say concerning the verse, I beheld till thrones were placed? The Gemara answers, one throne is for him and one throne is for David, the Messiah. As it is taught in the Baraita, one throne is for him and one throne is for David. This is the statement of Rabbi Akiva, the 1st century rabbi. Rabbi Yosef said to him, Akiva, until when will you desacralize the divine presence by equating God with a person? Rather, the correct interpretation is that both thrones are for God, as one throne is for judgment and one throne is for righteousness.
Keep reading.
Now, the question is...
Keep reading. I know what your question is, but keep reading.
So, I'm going to keep reading,
but
for the audience. So the question is, now, if the rabbi has said one throne is for the Messiah, Rabbi Akiva,
one is for David.
One is David, i.e. the Messiah.
Not necessarily, you're making the assumption.
Okay, David, that's fine.
The commentaries say.
It says even in here, i.e. the Messiah.
Okay.
This is from your own Jewish sources, so I'm not adding anything. So it says one throne is for David and one throne is for God. But a later rabbi says, how can you desacralize this? Both thrones...
Who says later?
Huh?
Who says that's later? Stop making assumptions.
Who says what?
Who says he's later?
Who's later? Rabbi Yohanan is later than Akiva.
Rabbi Yohanan? Is that the one who was in the Baraita?
Sorry, Yosef.
They were contemporaries.
He lived a bit afterwards.
No, he was a contemporary of Rabbi Akiva.
Because he lived in, let's see. So Rabbi Akiva was from 50 AD to 135 AD. And Yohanan...
Rabbi Yosef,
sorry. Let's see when he lived.
They were about the same time. Oh wait, sorry, no, you're right. Rabbi Yosef was a student of Rabbi Akiva. You're right.
So he came much, so he's a bit late. All right. So I don't need to find his birthday.
Yes, you're right.
So what I've asked, I'll read the continuing part, but what I've asked him to reconcile is how one rabbi says both thrones are for God, and one rabbi says one is for the Messiah and one is for God. Because now we have two contradictory statements. And my argument was that even in the earliest centuries, they never had any contention with associating divinity with the Messiah. But it's only Rabbi Yosef now we see said, how can you desacralize God by saying one is for a mere human? So, obviously it's a contradictory statement because as we see in the trial of Jesus, Jesus claimed to be that Son of Man who rides on the clouds and he was accused of blasphemy. But we'll continue reading. It says, the Gemara asked, did Rabbi Akiva accept this explanation from Rabbi Yosef, or did he not accept it from him? The Gemara suggests, come and hear a proof to the matter from what was taught in another Baraita as it is taught in a Baraita. One throne is for judgment and one throne is for righteousness. This is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah said to him, Akiva, what are you doing near? i.e. discussing matters of Agada. Go near tractates, Negaim and Oholot, which examine the complex halakot of ritual purity where your knowledge is unparalleled. Rather, the correct interpretation is that whilst both thrones are for God, one is a throne and one is for a stool. There is a throne for God to sit upon and a stool that serves as his footstool. So now, would you like to explain that to us?
First of all, let's have a look at the commentary.
Yes, because my first point would be, how could the great Rabbi Akiva mistakenly associated what is meant for God with a person? Because that would be a very big blunder from one of your greatest first century rabbis?
You shouldn't be telling the Jews. You should be asking.
I'm asking.
Salvation came through the Jews.
Yes.
And had it not been for the Jewish race, we would not have a Messiah.
Of course, the
So
line
we
of
thank
David.
God for the Jewish
Yes,
people.
of course. As Christians, we know our roots are from Judaism.
Yes.
So we never.
But they have missed out that Abraham's seed is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
He is the seed of the faithful.
The Messiah has to come from the line of David.
The children
Yes.
of Abraham
Amen.
are those who have faith in Jesus Christ.
You have to
Not
accept
the
your
natural
Messiah,
line,
sir.
not the
You
line
have
of
to accept
Ishmael,
your Messiah.
not the line of
He
Isaac.
has given us salvation, and He gave this gift to your nation first, and we have taken that gift of salvation. Salvation is from God alone. That's in the Psalms, even in your Hebrew. It's in your Psalms, brother. I'll leave brother to deal with you. Paperboy.
Good day to
But
you.
I
We
hope
know,
the
well,
Lord will
we'll
guide you.
just quickly address that in the conversation we had several weeks ago, where we said to you, several months ago, where I asked you, the Messiah, how will we prove the Messiah is from the line of David? Your reasoning was that God would not let the other things be fulfilled without letting the Jews know. But I said the criteria for the Messiah is he has to come from the line of David, which you have no way of verifying.
You know, that was a year ago, almost today.
That conversation, no, that was the one when you last came. It was
Really?
3 months ago, yes.
Oh,
Yes,
oh, is that one?
yes.
Oh.
So that's what his point is. That through the Jews, the Messiah has to come from the line of David. Now, Jews do not know what tribes they're from today. So therefore,
Except the Levites.
who's a Levite?
Except the Levites.
Okay, but we still have to identify that this person can prove that they're from the line of
I'm pretty
David.
sure the Ethiopian Jews know that they're from Dan.
Okay, but how will you know he's from the line of David?
How will we know?
Yes,
Good question. Elijah will tell us.
Elijah.
Yes, he's going
Okay.
to come and tell us 3 days before he comes.
All right. But let's, without being sidetracked.
But anyway,
Yes.
without sidetracking of those weird people, so the commentary doesn't seem to say anything. So we're going to have to try to work out.
Ah,
What
so the
Rabbi
commentary
Akiva-
doesn't seem to say anything that goes against what he said. But
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but what I'm clarifying to the audience is that one of their biggest rabbis associated what is for God with a person. Now, how could one of their biggest rabbis make such a blunder? Unless in the first century, Jews understood that there was a divinity associated with the Messiah, and it was not heretical until later on, and then they've gone back to correct him because he's trying to now find a statement of clarification where Rabbi Akiva either changed his opinion or accepted their interpretation.
Okay. It seems from the Gemara that we read that Rabbi Akiva does not seem to have been an expert in Agada.
Ah, so they've thrown him under the bus.
No, he's not thrown anyone under the bus. That's what it would seem. However, I'm not happy with that explanation at all.
Okay.
I'm going to think of another one.
Okay.
And what I think could be a possible way to go
Okay.
is that Rabbi Akiva was using some sort of anthropomorphism. And that the other rabbis said, no, we don't use anthropomorphism just for the sake of it. We're not going to do it here.
But I don't think saying the second throne is for David is a form of anthropomorphism.
No, that if you say that one is for God and one is for David, that does sound like anthropomorphism.
Not really. If you're saying God has a hand and, God has this and that, then that is anthropomorphism.
I.e., instead of just going with God has a spiritual throne, okay, and or God has two thrones for himself spiritually,
Yeah.
okay, by almost equating the throne of God to the throne of David, which from the words of Akiva, because Akiva was not very explicit, and this is something I'm going to explain to you of how a Gemara works in a sec, about how you have things that are not said explicitly, and then you're able to be attacked based on that. I'll explain that in more detail afterwards if you want me to. But in this case, he was not explicit about whether or not he was equating the throne of God to the throne of David, and therefore that sounds like somewhat of for somebody who has an alternative explanation of an unnecessary anthropomorphism. And in general, we don't make unnecessary anthropomorphisms, which seems to be the attack that Rabbi Yossi would be making on Rabbi Akiva.
So it seems you seem to know more as well than Rabbi Akiva with your explanation.
No, I'm telling you that's probably what Rabbi Akiva meant.
Probably.
Rabbi Akiva probably meant to make some sort of anthropomorphism, and he probably felt that it was a necessary anthropomorphism. Yeah, I think you're about to get stung by a wasp.
So now what I'm going to do, because we have the Qumran community where we have the Dead Sea Scrolls.
The Northern Kingdom. You're going
now,
to take from the Northern
just to
Kingdom.
give further evidence for my positions, we have scroll Q4521.
Wow.
And it says, and this is what they were writing 100 years before Christ came, 100 years plus, about the Messiah to come. The heavens and earth will obey the Messiah. Now, how would the Messiah rule the heavens if there was not some sort of divinity?
Heaven and earth will rule the Messiah.
No, the heavens and the earth will obey his Messiah. But so they're seeing that the Messiah was the leader of the heavens and the earth. But God is the leader of the heavens. So how could they associate this with a person? Which is the same thing Rabbi Akiva did. Because when we look at historically, we seem to see that the Jews seem to associate divinity with the Messiah. And I'll continue what they said.
Do you know
it
who
says,
wrote this?
the sea and all that is in them, he will not turn aside from the commandment of the Holy Ones. Take strength in his mighty work, all who seek the Lord. Will you not find the Lord in this, whom you wait for him with hope in your hearts? Surely the Lord will seek out the pious and will call the righteous by name. His spirit will hover over the poor. His might will he restore the faithful. He will glorify the pious on the throne of the eternal kingdom. He will release the captives, make the blind see, raise up the downtrodden. Forever I will cleave to him against the powerful, and I will trust in his loving kindness and in his goodness forever. His holy Messiah will not be slow in coming. And as for the wonders that are not the work of the Lord, when he, i.e. the Messiah, comes, then he will heal the sick, resurrect the dead, and to the poor announce glad tidings. He will lead the holy ones, he will shepherd them, he will do, and all of it. So this is obviously, the reason why I've gone to this is to the Qumran community.
Who were the Qumran community?
They were a small community of Jews, of Israelites, or Jewish people.
Where did they live?
Near the Qumran.
Where's Qumran? Which geographic part of Israel is it?
I think it's the Northern Kingdom.
It's the north.
Okay.
Now we all know, and you agree,
yes,
because you know the Book of Kings, don't
okay,
you? Okay. The Northern Kingdom were off their ruckus, as we all know. That's,
all right.
That's why they were the first to be sent into exile.
Okay.
You're going to take something from the Northern Kingdom to prove your point?
But my point is this: my point was that the earliest Jews did not have any issue with, because this goes. So that means Akiva too was an idolater, because he associated the throne of God with the Messiah. How would he possibly do it? Because I'm giving you evidence to back up my statement. His statement to respond about Akiva's statement was to give me a presumption. He's not giving me any statement of hard evidence to back up your claim of this anthropomorphism. Well, at least I am going to the earliest sources to look and see, does this go in line with what we can establish from earliest records?
It doesn't matter if it's an early source, as long as it's an authoritative source. Qumran's not an authoritative source for anything.
Well, Akiva is authoritative, and he associated the throne of God with the Messiah.
I already gave you a possible explanation.
That's
you
not
didn't
definitive.
like my explanation.
From where is your evidence of that?
And your explanation is also not definitive. Because you're trying to back up your explanation from a poor source.
No, I'm saying to you,
a poor source is not better
your
than
first century rabbi associated divinity with the Messiah, and later rabbis then said, how can he do such a thing? This is a very grave mistake he made. And this is why I say my argument is that no one had an issue with the Messiah and divinity being associated with him. Because when we go to the earliest sources, we see confirmation with that.
They didn't have any problem with that in the Northern Kingdom.
Nor did Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva had his own understanding of what this verse is.
But I want you to give me definitive understanding, because your rabbi seemed to refute what he's saying and try and reconcile what he's saying. But you said that both statements can be correct.
They can be.
So therefore, his statement can be correct that the throne was for the Messiah.
They can both be spiritually correct. But
so therefore, we've now associated
what is the
a heresy
of the
with
Gemara?
the Messiah.
What is the conclusion of the Gemara?
What was the conclusion of Akiva?
What is the conclusion?
I want
what is
the conclusion of
in the what we call a Shakla Batalia, the give and take of this Gemara. What is the conclusionary explanation of the verse in Daniel?
I'm asking
is
why
it Rabbi Akiva's or not?
I'm asking what Rabbi
You're not
Akiva
answering
said.
My question, are you?
Make your statement and I'll respond.
Okay, then you'll answer my question. Yes. Okay, just make sure we're gonna catch him up on this if he doesn't.
Okay.
Now, first of all, I tried to explain to you, okay, that one way of going, okay, just off the top of my head, without really delving into.
So off the top of your head, so therefore you're giving me a makeshift answer,
no,
like they used to do with the plural majesty.
You didn't. First of all, you refused for whatever. Well, we know the reason why. You refused to accept the explanation I gave to you of that midrash.
But you've just said you're giving me a makeshift answer.
I didn't say that.
Because you said off the top of your head.
Okay. Do you know what off the top of the head answer means?
It means you're not sure, but you're just going to try and give me an answer without any.
That's not what it means.
Okay, explain.
It means that I haven't sat down for hours and analysed this Gemara, which is what you do in order to understand a Gemara.
Okay.
But you wouldn't know that because you don't know how to learn a Gemara.
Okay. So give me the basis for that understanding. So give me your explanation again.
Okay. My explanation is Rabbi Akiva, very possibly, could be holding that in this case an anthropomorphism is necessary in this verse.
Okay, possibly. Where are you getting that understanding from?
Okay. Well, the way you analyze it is as follows. You know that Rabbi Akiva must have a truth in. Okay, must have a valid logic behind what he said, a valid reasoning. Okay.
Okay. Let me just stop you there. I'm saying it might not be, but could a valid explanation be that there was no problem in the first century of associating divinity with the Messiah?
First century.
Because that's when he lived.
Oh, so you just bring chronology in for no reason?
Well, I think when we look at history, we see things diverge away later on. So we're going to the closest source to that time, as earliest as we can see, and see what because when we want to find out a truth, we go to the sources or the closest sources.
Picking the quote of one rabbi in the first century does not mean that this was the mainstream view.
But I'm just asking, is that a possibility? That there was no problem of associating divinity with the Messiah?
Of associating divinity to the Messiah? I believe that's not really the issue here.
I'm just asking, is that a possibility?
Actually, I don't think it is the possibility.
Okay.
Because, look, obviously Rabbi Yossi did not misunderstand Rabbi Akiva. Okay, that's something that if you knew how to learn a Gemara, which you don't, then you would know. Okay, now you know. Well done. Rabbi Yossi does not misunderstand Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva does not misunderstand Rabbi Yossi. They have distinct ways of looking at this verse.
No, but yes.
Now, Rabbi Akiva sees this verse, and for whatever reason, that would take me a very long time to ascertain.
Okay.
Okay. And if you want, then I'll do it. Okay, I'll go through and try to work it out for next time I come, which will be in about a month and a bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that in this particular case, the anthropomorphism, attributing physical things, okay, in an anthropomorphistic way to God would be a necessary thing to do here.
But anthropomorphism is associating a human thing to God, not a person or something to God, i.e. saying the throne is for David.
But it doesn't mean...
Anthropomorphism is, you can argue, saying God has a throne and he sits on his throne, when you can say that's an anthropomorphic term.
Yes.
And it should be for God. That does not mean it's anthropomorphic.
That does not necessarily mean he's attributing divinity to David, okay, to the throne of David.
But why would you associate a throne, a person, as they said, why do you desacralize? That's a very big statement to make.
Yes.
Why do you desacralize the throne of God?
Yes, Rashi explains why you're attributing human things to God. If you open up Rashi, Rashi. He says Shekhinah Chol, which means desacralize the divine.
Desacralize the divine. So therefore,
that explains that you are associating flesh and blood by him. The problem.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making.
No,
desacralizing it because you're associating something with God to a human.
No. That you are likening to God, okay, flesh and blood.
Exactly.
Which means, okay, it's exactly the opposite of what you're saying. Rabbi Yossi's attack to Rabbi Akiva is not
an attack. Why would he attack Akiva?
Oh, that's just a phrase we use. It's just the translation of what we say a kasha, which is something we use in Gemara. It's like a question, but it's different. It's a more strong question.
A stern question of a grave mistake.
In the yeshiva world, we call it an attack. Okay?
Yes.
That's just what we refer
because
to.
it's a stern response to something very...
It's a stern response,
yes. To something very grave.
Now, his attack, is not based on what you say attributing divinity to David or attributing divinity to Messiah. It's not that at all. It's about attributing human characteristics to God. That's what he's attacking. So that there's no one here who's saying, besides you of course, there's no one here who's saying that Rabbi Akiva was attributing divinity to David.
But
he wasn't doing that.
Remember, in saying that, he made the very same mistake. When we had our conversation, I said to him, what does one like the Son of Man mean? He said, I'm not sure, read the verse, but he said, presumably this is a simile. Then when we got to the end of the verse, I said, what does he understand from this verse? He said, it is about the Messiah. And I reminded him, you said it was a simile at the beginning. And he said, yes, I was wrong. And then this is the same mistake which I pointed out that Rabbi Akiva made.
I found an answer.
Yes.
Because what I forgot to do last time was I forgot to read the rest of the chapter, which you cleverly managed to avoid.
Because now, if you
now
go and say it's Israel, because the two thrones are associated with that Son of Man, so therefore that throne would have to be associated
I'm going to read you the verses here.
Okay, let's start from...
I'm going to start from verse 11.
What's the reference, please?
Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to start from verse 11.
And we'll wrap up after this.
Okay, we're going to read through, because this is how you brought up Rabbi Akiva in the first place 2 sessions ago. Okay, and in fact Rabbi Akiva was not even dealing with the verse you claimed that he was dealing with. And there's video evidence
because
that you did claim that. He wasn't talking...
the two thrones, one was for the Son of Man.
We did not discuss the thrones. That's not what we were discussing. You had a problem, okay?
It's all interlinked. That's why it's Daniel 7. The whole Daniel 7 goes on to talk about the one like the Son of Man. Yes.
I looked on. This is Daniel speaking.
Yes.
I looked on. Then, because of the arrogant words that the horn spoke, the beast was killed as I looked on.
Yes.
Its body was destroyed and it was consigned to the flames.
Yes.
The dominion of the other beasts was taken away, but an extension of life was given to them for a time and season. As I looked on in the night vision, one like a human being came with the clouds of heaven. He reached the Ancient of Days and was presented to him. Dominion, glory and kingship were given to him. All peoples and nations of every language must serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship one that shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was disturbed within me, and the vision of my mind alarmed me. I approached one of the attendants and asked him the true meaning of all this. He gave me this interpretation of the matter. These great beasts, 4 in number, mean 4 kingdoms will rise out of the earth. Then holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess the kingdom forever, forever and ever. Then I wanted to ascertain the true meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from them and from all, very fearsome, with teeth of iron, claws of bronze that devoured and crushed and stamped the remains, and of the 10 horns on its head, and of the new one that sprouted to make room for which 3 fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke arrogantly, and which was more conspicuous than its fellows. I looked on as that horn made war with the holy ones and overcame them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was rendered in favor of the holy ones of the Most High, for the time had come and the holy ones took possession of the kingdom. This is what he said. The 4th beast means there will be a 4th kingdom upon the earth, which will be different from all the kingdoms. It will devour the whole earth, tread it down and crush it. And the 10 horns mean from that kingdom 10 kings will arise, and after them another will rise. He will be different from the former ones, and will bring low 3 kings. He will speak words against the Most High, and will harass the holy ones of the Most High. He will think of changing times and laws, and they will be delivered into his power for a time, times, and half a time. Then the court will sit, and his dominion will be taken away, to be destroyed and abolished for all time. The kingship and dominion and grandeur belonging to all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High. Their kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey them. Here the account ends.
Okay.
I, Daniel, was very alarmed by my thoughts, and my face darkened. I could not put the matters out of my mind. So what is the meaning of the thing like a man whose all the dominion and the glory goes to, like he came with the clouds of heaven? It's the people of Israel, it's the people of the Most High. It says it explicitly at the end of the chapter.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Because let's go back. It clearly says there came one.
Then the court will sit, and his dominion will be taken away, to be destroyed and abolished for all time. The kingship and dominion and grandeur belonging to all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High.
Yes.
Corresponding to the hymn of verse 14, which corresponds to the one like a human being who came with the clouds of heaven in verse 13.
No.
Yes.
No. Okay. Now we'll go through it again. I saw one in the night vision, and behold, with the clouds of heaven. Actually, let me just find one other thing to go with this verse. Yes. Because when who wrote about Meshach, Shadrach and Abednego? Who wrote about Meshach, Shadrach and Abednego?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The 3 people that were thrown in the fire by Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Yes. And when they were in the fire, what was seen?
I can't remember.
Okay, let me get the verse for you, because this will give us some context as well.
You didn't like the explanation that...
No, we're gonna.
You didn't like the explanation that the attendant of Daniel, which Daniel accepted, of the vision that Daniel saw. Daniel liked it.
We're going to go through it. Yeah, we're going to go through it.
You don't like it.
We'll fact check your fact check.
Fact check. You're not the cameraman. Only he says that, and it's very annoying when he does.
Josh, we love you, Josh.
Okay, Daniel 3.
What actually is this? It looks like what does it look like? It looks like a sort of little furry animal.
I just want to quickly show you something. Daniel 3:24, or you can read from 3. I just want to make a point.
And King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and rising in haste addressed his companions, saying, "Did we not throw 3 men bound into the fire?" He spoke in reply, "Surely, O king." He answered, "But I see 4 men walking about, unbound and unharmed in the fire, and the 4th looks like a divine being." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the hatch of the burning furnace and called, "Oh, because those Aramaic names, now I know what you're talking about. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. The satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the royal companions gathered around to look at those men on whose bodies the fire had had no effect, and hair of whose heads had not been singed.
Just 25.
Not even the odor of high flame. Oh, I went past it.
Yeah. What did it say?
Answered,
divine being.
I see 4 men walking about unbound and unharmed in the fire, and the 4th looks like a divine being.
And what's the Hebrew for that?
It's actually Aramaic. What does it say? It says, أنا خزي قبين أبو شرايين محنخين بهنيا بحمل لا إيساي بهر ويبيش نبي دومي لبار إلهين. It looks like a bar Elohim.
It says what?
It looks like a son of God.
It looks like a son of God.
Or a son of divine, really. That's really what it means.
What is it? Bar Elohim?
No, in with a nun at the end. The n at the end.
Say it again.
You can only say it just off the top, because otherwise I need to say the whole verse. أنا حزي قبل أبو شرايين محسنين بخانيو محبال لا إيساي بهر ويبيش دي ربيع دومي لبار إلهين.
Nevar Elohim.
With a n at the end, not a ma.
Ma.
No.
So say.
No for nut.
Yes, just say.
I'll transport the her for a cup for 3rd commandment reasons. Elohim.
No, so it just says Elohim. So
with a n at the
which
end.
is the sun part? What is sun?
Bar.
Bar. That's why I said Bar Elohim. So one light. So it's Bar Elohim.
Similar to a son of the divine.
So now in Daniel, when we go back to, because the reason why Daniel's writing in Aramaic, so we have to then understand how he's writing.
Although I do want to point out that the phrase, and this I can say normally, B'nai Elohim,
yeah,
okay, is son of God, is to refer to a certain type of angel.
Yeah. So
we can't rule out that is one of the possibilities of the meaning here. Seeing as this is basically just the Aramaic of that word, that phrase.
Okay. So now just to go back to, because Daniel says Bar Enash, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And interestingly enough, just a quick side point, because it says one like the Son of Man,
Yes.
which is a singular. And you're saying a plural, which is the people, is being referred to a singular. You see what?
Have that all the time.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Again, you
I'm just saying. Notice, but even though that's not the interpretation, but so it
The
says.
nation of Israel is often referred to in the singular. I point you to the following.
So, because now, wait. Now, you can bring that up. But what it says, as I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. That's where it starts in verse 9. But Rabbi Akiva's interpretation was, one was for God, and one was for the Messiah, which is what they refuted him on. Now, Josh here has now said, not only is that one seat not for David, it's for the whole people of Israel. So now he's not even associating a throne with one human person. He's associating it with a whole nation. So you have now even committed an even graver error of saying that second throne, because we see from your Baraita, there's two thrones. And both of those thrones are supposed to be for God.
The thrones is not.
But you've now said.
1 second.
He's now said the end of Daniel says that second throne is for the all of Israel.
That's what he says.
Guys.
1 second.
So now
Daniel chapter 7.
we have to give that Josh a stern response in terms of how the.
That was verse 9. That
Yes.
was before. That was before
Yes.
this one like a human being. Okay. So the one like
So
a
it
human. or the
leads
one,
into-
No. You know very well.
Okay.
Let's read.
Wait.
Let's read.
Okay.
Let's read.
Right.
Let's start from.
Because
verse
your
7.
claim-
Let's start from verse.
All right.
7.
Before we read, your claim was that the thrones at the end were associated with the one who approached the Ancient of Days. But in this verse, we only see there's two thrones,
When
which
did
are.
I say that the thrones are associated with one and approach the ancient days?
Because you're saying it must be the people, because the people are given the thrones.
Thrones have nothing to do with the people.
So what are the thrones to do with at the end that you read?
The thrones are not at the end.
Yes.
Say that. And the court will sit, and his dominion will be taken away to be destroyed and abolished for all time. The kingship and dominion and grandeur belong to all the kingdoms under heaven, belong to the people of the Holy Ones of the Most High. Their kingdom is to be a lasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey them. And there's no mention of throne, no mention whatsoever.
So what do you associate the kingship with?
Oh, so you're going to assume that the kingship is the throne, and I will
asking
disagree
you.
with you.
Okay, so
Very simple.
we'll start from 7 and then we can go through and then we can wrap up.
Verse 7.
Yeah.
After that, as I looked on in the night vision, there was a fourth beast, fearsome, dreadful, and very powerful, with great iron teeth, that devoured and crushed and stamped the remains with its feet. It was different from all the other beasts which had gone before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was gazing upon these horns, a new little horn sprouted up among them. 3 of the older horns were uprooted to make room for it. There were eyes in his horn like those of a man, and a mouth that spoke arrogantly. As I looked on, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His garment was like white snow, and the hair of his head was like lamb's wool. His throne was tongues of flame, its wheels were blazing fire.
Okay.
I'm not finished.
All right.
A river of fire streamed forth before him. Thousands upon thousands served him. Myriads upon myriads attended him. The court sat, and the books were opened. I looked on.
Wait, let's just, before we go into the next part, let's just see, because That's the part Akiva was talking about as well, as in the thrones of God, the Ancient of Days.
The thrones of God are talking about the thing in the eyes in his horn, which are like those of a man. Okay, and the mouth that spoke arrogantly. Okay, that's the context of the thrones being set in place. But the context of what the attendant explained to be to be what belongs to the people of the to what was given to the people of the Holy Ones of the Most High is with reference to the last part of Daniel's vision, which is with the one like a human being that came with the clouds of heaven.
Say that again.
Nothing to do with the thrones.
So one like the Son of Man who came.
There's more than one like a Son of Man here. There's one like a son of. Okay, there's the one in verse 8, which is there were eyes in his horn like those of a man and a mouth that spoke.
But you said
that's the context where the thrones come in.
Now you said,
and in verse 13, there's a different.
Now
one
you
like
said
a human being.
that the person comes on the clouds.
Yeah,
according to the
this one,
Psalms,
in verse 13.
Isn't it only God that rides the clouds? Let's go to the. Let me bring up the Psalm.
And what does Daniel's attendant explain? Daniel didn't understand his vision. Do you not understand that? Daniel did not understand the vision.
So
the attendant explains.
So my point is this: anything associated with that, if the Son of Man is riding the clouds, that is an association with God.
It's
because
an
only God.
That Daniel didn't understand. The attendant explained, and he didn't even
answer me
mention
this.
it. I'm answering you.
According to Judaism, is God the cloud rider?
Yes.
So therefore, anything you associate with cloud riding has to be associated with divinity, because that's how Jewish people at that time would have always understood the cloud rider as God, associating something, an attribute with God. God rides the wind. So therefore, this Son of Man, who is riding on the clouds, has to, by classical Jews, would have understood this straight away as something associated with the divinity of God, because only God was the cloud rider.
If you are right, then why does the attendant of Daniel, who when he explains it, and Daniel of course accepts his explanation, not explain it with any reference to the clouds of heaven?
Well, because this is the thing, because obviously we see the two thrones, and this is where these interpretations of the...
So you're not answering me?
No, because what I'm saying is your interpretation we're going to debunk. So your interpretation is wrong.
You're not explaining anything.
Yeah, we're going through, and we're just stopping
What's
there.
What's the answer to my question? I have one question.
Because
for
you're
you.
saying
I have one question for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Daniel accepts the explanation of his attendant. The explanation of his attendant does not even include the clouds of the heavens, which means that the clouds of the heavens, is not going to be one of the more relevant parts of the vision. Okay. Daniel thought it was. He ended up accepting the explanation of his attendant that in fact the clouds of heaven is not something that's really important in this vision. What is important in this vision? Yeah. That the one like a Son of Man is the people of the Most High, which is the people of Israel.
No, because
my question to you is, why can you not accept that?
Because your interpretation is completely wrong, and that's why we're trying to go through it.
Why is my interpretation
because
wrong? Explain to me.
The first part,
very simply.
Because we see one like the Son of Man approaching the Ancient of Days. Yeah.
Which one? There's two.
The
one in verse 8, or the one in verse 13.
Okay. So when we start with 8. It says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up amongst them another little horn. This is obviously the KJV. You may not like the translation, but we'll just go for it. Behold, there were 3 of the first horn plucked up by the roots, and behold, in his horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and mouth speaking great things. I beheld till arrogantly. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and hair of his head was like the pure wool. His throne was the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So then we continue. Fiery steam issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And the judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spoke, I beheld till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame.
Yes.
And then we continue. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they did their dominion take away, yet their lives are prolonged for the season and time. I saw the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So he's talking about this congregation presenting the Son of Man to the Ancient of Days. Right. And my thing was this, because we know this is a significant verse, because
every verse is significant.
Yeah, but when you say someone on the clouds, with the clouds of heaven, and God is the only person who rides the clouds of heavens, this then is associating divinity with the one like the Son of Man.
That's not how the attendant understood it.
Because then when we go on...
Why did the attendant not understand it? That's my only question to you.
Why did the attendant...
according to you,
yes.
Why did the attendant, whom Daniel accepted the explanation of, not understand it the way you understand it?
But where are you linking the Son of Man to the explanation? That's what I'm not understanding.
Very simple.
Yes.
Because when it says in if you read verse 13 says, okay, so I looked on the night vision, one like a human being came with the clouds of heaven.
Yes.
He, i.e. the one like a human being,
yes,
reached the Ancient of Days and was presented to him.
Yes.
Dominion, glory, and kingship were given to him, i.e. the one like a Son of Man.
Okay.
All peoples and nations of every language must serve him, i.e. the one like a...
Yes.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away. Who is his dominion?
The one like the Son of Man.
Exactly. His kingship is one like the Son of Man. One that shall not be destroyed. Right? So, and then in the explanation by the attendant, okay, then in verse 27, the kingship and dominion and grandeur belonging to all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to, who is him? The people of the holy ones of the Most High. Verse 27.
Okay, so then...
The kingship and dominion and grandeur, who we said before is being given to the one like a human being, okay? Okay, who is it going to be given to? Okay, the kingship, dominion, and grandeur belonging to all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High. I.e., the one like a human being is the people of the holy ones of the Most High. Does he mention anything about coming with the clouds of heaven?
So, but that...
No!
But that's the whole point.
So he doesn't understand it the way you understand it.
No, because that means they're two different things. Because let's look at the verse. Look, it says, and the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Yes. So now, if they have the dominion of the kingdom, how can they also serve him if they've been given the dominion and of the kingdoms? Because what you would say is these...
How do they serve who?
Okay, let me break this down. Are these people going to be presented to the Most High riding on the clouds?
What do you mean?
i.e.
the people of the Most High, i.e. the people of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look,
you're asking
so
me
in 13,
how are they going to be presented
it says,
to...
I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. So are you saying these people are going to be presented to the ancient days riding on the clouds of heaven?
It's not what the attendant says.
He didn't mention the clouds.
Exactly, that's the point I'm making.
But
he doesn't mention the clouds.
But so you're saying that clouds are irrelevant?
No, they're not relevant. That's why he doesn't even mention them.
But where does it say in that verse then that they are presented to the Ancient of Days? Because in 13, it says they are presented to him. So therefore, according to your interpretation, that's irrelevant too.
So do you want to explain, do you want to explain to me why the attendant in his explanation of this one like a Son of Man, who he's saying is the people of the Most High, why he misses out this thing about the clouds of heaven? Do you want to explain why?
Because the one like the Son of Man is not these people. They're two different things.
So that's
why it's missed out.
You're telling me that in the vision, dominion, grandeur, and kingship are given to this one like a human being, who of course you want to associate with the Messiah. I know that's your end game.
But because
and you want to say the Messiah was Jesus.
Because my point is this.
And of course you say that Jesus is God.
Because my point is this.
However, in the attendant, he's saying that dominion, kingship, and grandeur is going to the people of the Most High. Because I wanted to say that therefore you can link the people of the Most High with the one like a human being, or the Son of Man, or whoever.
Because what I'm saying to you is this: we know from classical Judaism, even from the Torah, that only God is the rider of clouds. Perfect. So when they say they see someone
So you still
on the
haven't answered
clouds.
my question.
Yeah, because you're trying to disregard this point. I'm saying to you, that's why he was shaken, because he saw someone riding the clouds, something that you only...
He was shaken. He was shaken. He was shaken because of all the exiles that are going to happen before the redemption.
Let me ask you this question.
Those are the four beasts.
If you understand only God is the cloud rider, which you just confirmed, then you see someone who looks like a human riding on the clouds too. Would you be shaken, yes or no?
Probably would be shaken.
Okay, so then this is initially...
Is that the main shaking?
This is initially what starts it, because we continue to go on.
Would Daniel... Okay, all right.
Yes.
If you saw four beasts come out and ripping things to shreds and whatever, would you be shaking?
Of course, including that.
Every single thing made him shake.
So
do you think
you've now...
You think one stands out from the rest? No!
But you've just disregarded. That's why I keep sticking to the riding of the clouds, because you're saying it wasn't important.
It wasn't important. That's why the attendant doesn't mention it. And you don't want to tell me why the attendant didn't mention it. You don't want to tell me. You think I'm disregarding it. I'm telling you the attendant himself disregarded it, and Daniel accepted what he said. So that means Daniel disregarded it too. So you're arguing with Daniel.
Because in terms of the interpretation, we get the understanding of what the beasts are and everything, yes? Because when you see someone like the Son of Man, you understand what it is. If you see beasts, for example, you may not understand what that is.
Daniel didn't understand what that was. That's why he needed the attendant.
Okay, exactly. That's my whole point.
That's why he needed the attendant.
I'm saying in terms of the interpretation of the beast. Because let's go through it one more time, and then we'll wrap, because we've been going on this for a very long time.
Time anyway.
All right. Because this... Okay.
Back check. Why you don't have smartphone?
He does.
Because we don't have smartphones.
Oh, you don't use smartphones?
You don't use smartphones.
They're full of nonsense.
It stops him from going onto the internet and being being tempted.
No, there's nothing that says we're not allowed to. As long as you know what you're doing.
But your parents and teachers don't tell you not to?
My parents think it's hilarious.
Did you learn Daniel specifically for this, like and like pieces of like Ishayahu and Yirmiyahu?
In truth, yes. In truth, there were pieces, and that's one of the things I like about coming here. It forces me to analyze my own scriptures more carefully.
Well, they say when you come to Speaker's Corner, you will learn about your own faith. So I definitely agree about that.
Oh, Josh,
I'm a Jew.
So what school do you go to?
I'm not in a school anymore. I'm in yeshiva in Israel.
Okay.
And just for clarification, can we get your age then, Josh? Because people think you're like very young.
Oh yeah, I'm 19.
19.
I'm turning 20.
Because they keep saying, Paperboy, why are you debating this young boy?
I'm turning 20 in a few months.
So
I thought it was about 12, 15.
Yeah, so clearly we see he is a man.
We love you, Josh.
Yes.
We love you, Josh.
We would like to
I'm impressed.
So if we can just read through 7, from 11, just or wherever, from their 4 beasts to the end, and then
To the end again.
yes, and then we'll just wrap up.
Aramaic or English?
Right, Josh.
Okay, let's do it again. I looked on. Then, because of the arrogant words that the horn spoke, the beast was killed. As I looked on, its body was destroyed and it was consigned to the flames. The dominion of the other beast was taken away, but an extension of life was given to them for a time and season. As I looked on in the night vision, one like a human being came with the clouds of heaven. He reached the Ancient of Days and was presented to him. Dominion, glory, and kingship were given to him. All peoples and nations of every language must serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship one that shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was disturbed within me, and the vision of my mind alarmed me. I approached one of the attendants and asked him the true meaning of all this. He gave me this interpretation of the matter. These great beasts, 4 in number, mean 4 kingdoms will arise out of the earth.
The 4 beasts.
Yes.
So therefore he's not addressing the Son of Man.
Yet.
No,
Not
because
yet.
it said the 4 beasts.
Yeah,
So
not
therefore
yet.
the interpretation is
He's
only
explaining
regarding...
the entire vision.
No, because it said the regarding the 4 beasts.
At the beginning, yes. These
Yes,
great
not the Son of Man.
You haven't got to the end yet, have you?
No, but
disregard
we start
verses
we start
26 onwards.
because it says clearly this is the interpretation regarding the 4 beasts. So anything that comes on after
It does
that,
not say that.
read what
He says
it
he gave me this interpretation of the matter. And he
Yes.
starts as follows. he starts at the beginning of the matter. These great beasts, 4 in number, mean 4 kings of the light.
All right. So now he's addressing the 4 beasts.
Yeah,
because
right
now
now.
So then we will have to see where he then addresses the Son of Man. Because
These great beasts, 4 in number, mean 4 kingdoms will arise out of the earth. Then holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess the kingdom forever, forever and ever. Then I wanted to ascertain the true meaning of the 4th beast. So we've left the attendant. The attendant gave a very quick summary of the whole thing.
Okay.
So there's 4 beasts.
Yep.
Okay, which will arise out of the earth. Okay. And then the holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever.
Okay.
Okay.
So where does he now say?
Well, now we're going to find out.
Okay.
Then, this is Daniel speaking again. Then I wanted to ascertain the true meaning of the 4th beast.
The 4th
which
beast.
was different from them all, very fearsome, with teeth of iron, claws
Did he say
of
the
bronze,
Son of Man?
that's devoured and crushed. Wait for it. And stamped the remains. And of the 10 horns on its head, and of the new one that sprouted, to make room for which 3 fell, the horn that had eyes. Okay, of course, what was the horn that had eyes? What did we say earlier? The horn that had eyes was, that was the eyes in the horn like those of a man, remember? Back in verse 8. And a mouth that spoke arrogantly, remember that was also in verse 8. And which was more conspicuous than its fellows. Okay, that was all in verse 8, remember? I looked on as that horn made war with the holy ones and overcame them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was rendered in favor of the holy ones of the Most High, for the time had come and the holy ones took possession of the kingdom. Okay, that looks very much like verse 12, right? Very much like verse 12.
Read it again.
Okay, it says here in verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came, as judgment was rendered in favor of the holy ones of the Most High, the time had come, and the holy ones took possession of the kingdom. That looks very similar to verse 12. Okay, where it said that the dominion of the other beasts was taken away, but an extension of life was given to them for a time and season. Okay?
Okay.
Now, verse 23, this is what he said. The 4th beast means there will be a 4th kingdom upon the earth, which will be different from all the kingdoms.
Okay.
It will devour the whole earth, tread it down and crush it. And the 10 horns mean from that kingdom 10 kings will arise, and after them another will arise. Okay, this is of course the horn like those of which had eyes like those of a man, remember? He will be different from the former ones and will bring low 3 kings. That's the horn, remember? He will speak words against the Most High. Okay, that's of course a mouth that spoke arrogantly. And will harass the holy ones of the Most High. He will think of changing times and laws, and they will be delivered into his power for a time, times, and half a time, which remember is a time and season from verse 12. And then it says in verse 26, then the court will sit, and his dominion will be taken away, to be destroyed and abolished for all time. The kingship and dominion in grandeur, belonging to all the kingdoms under heaven, will be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High.
So is this still regarding the 4th beast?
The 4th beast has been destroyed.
Okay, so now where does it go on to the explanation of the Son of Man?
Now.
Because every time they kept breaking it down. This is the interpretation of the beast. This is the interpretation of the 4th beast. Now, if he wanted to understand of the Son of Man, then he would have said, now this is the interpretation of the Son of Man. Because you're saying he didn't understand.
Not necessarily.
So now you're saying he understood the context of the Son of Man.
Notice that the 3 beasts were disconnected to the 4th beast in the original vision.
Yes.
So over here, he dealt with the first 3, and then he dealt with the whole thing of the 4th.
Now
which includes.
So you're.
Additionally, and this is the most important point, I think. Okay. According to what you're saying, the attendant does not actually ever come to explain the one that the one like a human being, whom we know from verse 14 that dominion, glory, and kingship were given to him. And yet the attendant does tell us that kingship, dominion, and grandeur, is going to be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High. You want to tell me that that is not a direct explanation to. You're telling me that verse 27 about kingship, dominion, and grandeur is not a direct explanation of verse 14 about dominion, glory, and kingship.
No,
I don't know why you're saying that.
Because what we see is clearly. When we start this verse, he's saying he sees one like the Son of Man, which is obviously a simile. So you're saying, because remember, when he says one like the Son of Man, You're now trying to say that the people had a resemblance of a human being. That's why they don't go together. Because he's seeing something that looks like a man. Now
we're finding out what it is.
But you're saying he saw the people.
A nation looks like a man, doesn't it?
Does it?
Look, the nation of Israel, the nation of Israel,
Yeah.
the nation of Israel is made up.
Do people
of
look
lots and
like
lots of
men,
people.
or are they men?
A person is a person, but a group of people, okay, where everyone's doing his own thing, it's like organs inside a body, it looks like a person. It's not a literal person. The nation of Israel is not a literal person. It's only like a person.
So he saw the nation of Israel.
The nation of Israel is like a person. It doesn't mean it's actually a person.
I really don't. I disagree with you.
Why?
Because obviously when he says the phrase keeper and nasher, it's referring to basically a particular figure. It cannot be referring to like a collective group of people like the Jewish people. Because it's obviously talking about a particular person.
And this is someone who understands Hebrew. This is why when I brought out the
The attendance says.
Wait, hold on. Can I just point out?
In verse 26.
You see. Remember when I read that?
No, I'm just saying that keeper and
yeah. No, I know. I understand your point. But you see the point when you read out from the Talmud when it says don't debate the Jewish people. Because they will. Because you're now pointing out the Hebrew, what it says, and this is why they said you can go to the Gentiles, but not to the Hebrews, because they will understand just like you will understand the context of the Hebrew language. That's why you can challenge him.
That's not the reason it said it.
Because
it said the reason.
Because anyone who
a
Gentile would
have
listened to him and thought, maybe he's got a point. But you, as a Hebrew speaker, understands that it can't refer to what he's saying, and you can challenge him.
That's not true. You haven't read verse 27.
Well, what we'll do, Josh is not here again.
When the attendant explains,
so we'll do a wrap up anyway.
When the attendant explains what the Son of Man, what the one like man was,
we'll do a wrap up again later on if Josh would like to do one.
He explains that it is.
You can do a wrap up, and Josh, and then we can continue this off.
Do a wrap up.
Okay, the wrap up is as follows. Paperboy here, whatever his actual name is, I don't know what
Mr. Boy.
Mr. Boy. For some reason he's too scared to tell us his real name, unlike myself.
Be nice.
But, okay, I'll be nice. Paperboy here is clearly the heretic that Gemara in Sanhedrin was referring to, in which every single answer to all of his nonsensical questions are all found very, very close to the verses that he's quoting. Even here in Daniel chapter 7, where we're able to just look at how the attendant explains the vision that Daniel saw and see that the one like a son of man, the one like resembles a human being, is indeed referring to the people of the Most High, as it says in chapter 7, verse 27.
Now, the reason why...
And therefore, there is no basis whatsoever to claim that the one like a son of man is the Messiah, or that it is God himself. It is the people of Israel, as I said all along. Jesus is not the Messiah. There is no basis for saying this. This will be probably the debate of next time, I'm hoping, to actually address why on earth you would think that Jesus would be the Messiah without, it just doesn't make any sense. And of course, with his constant denial of the oral law and yet his constant quoting of it, you have to wonder what his agenda is here. And basically, Jesus is not the Messiah.
He's got a quick point for you, Josh.
So how do you say when it says Levi Elohim? How can it be Levi? So how can it be basically?
You're bringing me an argument from the fact that Nebuchadnezzar said that he looks like a divine being?
Yeah.
So you're bringing me a proof from a Babylonian king who was a wicked man. Yeah. He said, oh, that looks divine.
Yeah.
How would he know?
But
okay. Exactly.
We'll discuss his next point. That goes against you. Just like same people when they saw angels, they recognized them. Now.
Well, I was just saying.
Yes, because they recognize them without having to kind of expand on.
So you're accepting it's talking about an angel and not God.
We'll continue next time you're back. But now my conclusion is this: we started with about Rabbi Akiva making one of the gravest mistakes of associating, according to later rabbis, a throne of God with the Messiah. And they're trying to reconcile, why would he say such a thing? This is the same throne and the same chapter that Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man, who you will see riding on the clouds. Because we know from ancient Judaism, as just confirmed, that only God was associated with the cloud rider. And this is why they accuse him of blasphemy and they rip their shirts when Jesus said, you'll see the one like the Son of Man at the right hand side of God, which is another association with God, riding on the clouds, which only God does. Now, we went through Daniel, and he said the angel gave the explanation of the four beasts. But the angel never gave an explanation of what it meant to be one like the Son of Man, or what it meant to be riding on the clouds of heaven. But that is something you associate only with God. And again, this is what Jesus claimed in Mark 16:61 at the trial. Then obviously we saw, again, just going back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, we saw that the earliest Jewish community also associated divinity with the Messiah. Because what I was trying to present is that the earliest Jews had no problem with associating divinity with the Messiah. It's only after Jesus came and the Christians kept saying Jesus was the Messiah and that he was divine that the infestation has begun. Yeah, donkey! Uncle!
Mr. Donkey is liar.
Uncle Donkey!
Uncle.
Okay.
I am Gamal.
You are Gamal.
عايز ايه يا حيوان؟
Hey.
عايز ايه؟ Listen.
We got interrupted by Uncle Jamal, but basically the wrap-up was we kind of looked at different things. One, that Rabbi Akiva associated divinity with the Messiah, and the later rabbis were kind of strongly condemning him, asking why would he make such a grave mistake of associating the throne of God with a person. We also saw the evidence of the.
Do not subscribe to local
We also
films.
saw the evidence of the Qumran community who believe that the Messiah will have divine purposes. He'll be the ruler of heaven and earth. And then we also went back again into the plurality of majesty, which we know doesn't exist in Judaism, and the fact that Jews were saying do not discuss with the Jewish heretic because they will only be more entrenched in their position, but then you can debate with the Gentiles. And we clearly know, and we saw an example there of where someone who understands Jewish or Hebrew refuted Josh on the point of that the one like the Son of Man couldn't be a group because of the way it's phrased. Whereas a Gentile who may not understand Hebrew may just take that makeshift excuse and think, okay, because he speaks Hebrew, we'll take it. But clearly that verse and the interpretation, then maybe I'll do a presentation on it, is not talking about the one like the Son of Man. It's two different groups. That's why the angel broke down the four beasts. He didn't go into the one like the Son of Man, which was presented to him. And as Josh said, a cloud rider is associated with God. But yet Jesus claimed to be this cloud rider. And that's why they accuse him of blasphemy in the courts. Otherwise, why else would they accuse him of blasphemy? Because we know from the first century, this was something only you associated with God. So next time Josh comes, we'll probably debate about something else. Why maybe Jesus is the Messiah, go more in depth. But clearly we see when we go into the Jewish interpretation of scriptures, they have to go to the oral law, which is never ever quoted by any prophet over several thousand years, but is only alluded to, which doesn't seem very convincing. And then we see contradictory opinions. According to Josh, two contradictory opinions can have a truth in the spiritual realm. So therefore, if David or the Messiah was on the throne of God, we know the truth was that Christ was that person on that throne. So in a sense, he was correct in some aspects. But accordingly, we see many times rabbis disagree, and they have both extreme positions. So how can they then both be true? So until next time,